Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to begin. Thank you. Good to have a member of the family here. Now, for the next hour or so, I want to talk to you about unsporting conduct in Magic tournaments and why it's important that we keep a lid on the players' conduct, on a lid on the conduct of people who are at the event spectating, or maybe even officials like judges themselves. People start
for standard win-a-box or legacy win-a-box. Please make your way to Garrett so that we can get your event started.
If we don't keep a lid on people's conduct, it can not only give a bad negative impression to the player it's being directed at or the people around them, it's going to affect the store, and more serious situations could affect the judge program, and even wizards themselves and how they are perceived as a professional organization. So what I have for you today is we're going to go through...
Matt Kingen, if you are in the room, please make your way over to the side of the stage, please. Matt Kingen, if you are in the room, to the side of the stage, please.
We're going to go through 12 examples of potentially unsporting conduct, and with each video we're then going to throw it to the audience and see how people feel. We'll take a vote on whether this is something that we can ignore because it isn't unsporting conduct. There's a wide area between unsporting conduct and conduct that's just not sporting, but it's nothing we worry about, or whether we should be giving a warning and telling people that they need to change their attitude, or whether we need to give them a more serious education with unsporting conduct major and a game loss, or whether they've really crossed over the boundaries and we have to disqualify those people from the tournament with unsporting conduct, aggressive behavior. One quick thing to point out as well, as we're running through this material, because of problems with sound on the internet link as we're televising this, they can't get the sound that you're hearing as you watch the video. So every time that we go to a video, the technicians are going to cut to their own version of the video and put that up on the internet link. So once the video finishes, they're probably going to be maybe 5 seconds behind what you've been seeing. So I'm going to stand around and go until the internet audience has caught up with us. Okay? So I haven't had too much caffeine. I'm still with you in the room and I understand what's going on. So as a start and a refresher, let's take a look and see what the IPG has to say about unsporting conduct. So unsporting conduct is disruptive behavior that may affect the safety, competitiveness, or enjoyment of an event in a significantly negative fashion. Being enrolled in the tournament is not something that is required for it to be unsporting conduct.
Scott Carver to the side event stage. Scott Carver to the side event stage.
It could be a spectator or even an official who is part of the behavior that we need to correct. Unsporting behavior is not the same as a lack of sporting behavior. There is sometimes a wide margin. So it might not be something that we like to see, but it might not necessarily be unsporting conduct in its own right. So we have to be careful of that as well. We want to be fair. We want to make sure that people are not negatively impacting the people around them, but we want to make sure that the penalty fits the crime.
Once again, if you sign up for a standard win-a-box or a legacy win-a-box, please make your way over to the Garrett banner over there.
So judges should inform the player what is wrong with their conduct and what it is that's making it disruptive, and talk to that player about how they need to change their conduct, change it in a way that's going to be positive for the people around them. Because we want those guys to have fun as well. This is not about hammering the player if we can avoid it. We want that guy to have fun too. And maybe he just needs a little bit of an education. So let's look at the three categories that we're going to be considering for the afternoon. Unsporting conduct minor, a player takes an action that is disruptive to the tournament or its participants. It may affect the comfort level of those players around, but we do not have to determine that. Okay? You do not have to say, well, did you find it unfavorable? Were you put off by this? We don't have to get solid evidence like that. Some examples that the IPG gives, things like a player using excessively vulgar language or profane language, a player inappropriately demanding a penalty of the opponent, a player appeals to the head judge before listening to the floor judge's ruling, a player taunts an opponent about a bad play, and a player leaves excessive trash in the play area. Right. Unsporting conduct major falls into three main categories that we feel is a big escalation. He fails to follow a direct instruction from a tournament official. He insults another player based on their race, based on their color, religion, nationality, age, gender, disability, or sexual orientation, or commits aggressive or violent behavior that isn't directed at the opponent or another opponent's property. So keep in mind these three categories. These are one of the main reasons that we're going to move up from just a simple warning, because we've got something that is much, much more distasteful and shows perhaps a big problem with the way that person is thinking. Some examples: a player is asked to leave the play area and is still watching after a couple of minutes. A player continues to argue with the head judge about a ruling after being told to stop. And a player uses a racial slur against an opponent. Or after losing a match, the player throws his cards onto the table and knocks over his chair in anger. Our highest level, when we need to remove the player from their tournament, is a player acting in a threatening way towards other players or their property. And we want to remove them from the tournament, and they will be disqualified. So some of the examples that we have for this: a player threatens to hit another player who won't concede, a player pulls out a chair and the player falls to the ground and maybe hurts himself, a player makes a threat against a judge about receiving a ruling, a player tears up a card belonging to another player, a player intentionally turns over a table. Now these might seem kind of exceptional, but all of these examples are in the IPG because it's happened at one time or another. Okay? This is from hard-earned experience that we put these things in. Okay, so I think we're ready for our first video. Now, a couple of things to mention. I think in one or two of the videos, because the people who are involved, some of the people involved are kind of young, sometimes they're just a little bit nervous and they might snigger or giggle, but treat each situation as serious as it's supposed to be portrayed. If someone giggles, that's just their nerves showing through. And treat all of these scenarios as real, genuine situations that could happen where you might have to step in. So we'll watch the video, it's less than a minute, and then we'll throw it open to the floor to see if anybody has any opinions either way about this. Then we'll take a vote, and then from a questionnaire I did last year, which some of you might have completed online, we'll see what people online thought. We had just over 200 judges who gave their opinion on all of these scenarios, and we'll see if we are gelling and if we're coming to the same opinion.
Sweet. Let me go ahead and throw that guy down. Not just safely. Here you go. Slag Storm. Are you freaking kidding me? It's ridiculous. Leave this.
This clip they want to talk about first. Do we have a penalty at all? Can we just wag a finger and move on? Yes.
I feel that was excessively inappropriate behavior, and that at that point you should probably be given a game loss, not a match loss, and future issues like that should be handled. Disqualification for the man ACI, maybe for excess.
So you feel it's excessive, and you're in favour of a game loss? Is that correct?
That would be definitely in favor of a game loss, something like that, because he not only threw his own parts, but threw them at his opponent, and his opponent did nothing but play a role.
So his opponent did nothing wrong, and it's excessive behaviour, and we have an opinion that perhaps that should be a game loss, unsporting conduct major. Any other thoughts? Anyone with a different opinion? Are we being too harsh? Are we being too soft?
Yes. I kind of feel like that's crossed the line into aggressive behavior. I would probably penalize that player with a disqualification and remind them that that behavior is not appropriate.
Okay, so we have an opinion that this has actually crossed the most serious of lines, and we've got unsporting conduct, aggressive behaviour, and we should actually be disqualifying that player. Any other opinions before we take the vote?
If you're in sealed grinder number 1, the pairings for the first round are going up. Once again, sealed 1, the pairings are up.
We're all so quiet and shy today, my goodness. Okay, who feels, and let's get a show of hands, who feels that there isn't a problem, there is no penalty? 0. How many people would give unsporting conduct minor? 0. How many people feel that we should give unsporting conduct major? Okay, keep the hands up for a second. That's about 28 people of the assembled people here. How many people that we're talking about unsporting conduct aggressive and he should actually be disqualified? Okay, a smaller margin, only about 15. Let's see what I thought and what the survey thought. So on my mind, this is clearly a disqualification. And I'll tell you why. It's aggressive behaviour which is directed at the opponent. Was the opponent bodily harmed by that throwing of the cards? Probably not. But I'm not looking for a medical bill or a certain size of medical bill before I deem this to be aggressive. It was a deliberate action which was targeting specifically his opponent. The cards didn't slip out of his hands. He wasn't trying to toss them in the air. He targeted with intent his opponent with those cards. And when you do something like that, regardless of how much harm it might do, maybe none at all, you've got a situation which can quickly escalate. And we need to come down on these people and say, no, this is completely unacceptable, and would leave a very negative opinion. And we might have someone who's very shy. What if that person is playing in their first Magic tournament? That could really affect someone very badly. So with that action deliberately being targeted at the opponent, I feel that we've definitely crossed over the line. We look at the survey. Out of 200 people, 1 person thought there wasn't a problem at all. About 12, 13 people thought a warning. About 70 people thought it was a game loss. And for the disqualification, we had just over 50%. So we've got a wide range of opinion here. Okay. Let's go to the next slide.
6. Sorry,
so,
wait. Make your way to Derek so that we can get started.
Okay, same idea. We'll let you watch the video. We'll see if we can get some quick opinions, and then we'll discuss. Okay, go.
Alright. Come on.
Your turn.
Alright, let's see. And I believe that's game.
Well, can I use this?
Nope. That's why girls shouldn't play magic. Get back in the kitchen, woman.
Okay, before we look at the next slide, any gut opinions about what the penalty should be? Yes, sir.
Strikes me as unsporting conduct major. I would consider that to be hate speech. So I would give that an unsporting major. Like that is hate speech directed on her being a woman, and that's by definition major.
Does anyone disagree? Does anyone think we're not being severe enough with our penalty? Or does anyone think we're being too severe? Interesting. So, how many people think there isn't a problem? How many people think it should be a wag of the finger and a warning for minor? How many people think major and a game loss? Oh, lots of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost everybody, which is about 40. Anybody think it's a disqualification? One person. Just before we turn the next slide over, do we care whether the person whose that comment is being directed to, do we care if she doesn't feel offended? Anybody have a thought?
Yes.
We do care?
If somebody else is in the area and they hear that, they're a first-time player and they feel that, you know, this behavior isn't being, if this behavior isn't being, you know, punished, you know, that's going to dissuade them from playing a future event. Like, that kind of behavior needs to be dealt with immediately. It's the same with sexual harassment in a workplace. It doesn't matter if the person being directed to is offended, anybody else being in the area, overhearing it, that everybody can complain about it. So it just needs to be dealt with immediately, with a major.
So what you said is that, of course, we have to think about other people around at nearby tables who could hear this and who are watching to see how judges and the program is going to respond. We don't really care whether that person feels particularly offended. They might be just trying to be nice. Eyes are watching you all the time, and the judges are being judged by what you do and also what you don't do. And we don't want to get into a situation where we seem to be condoning this kind of behavior, which singles out women and makes them feel uncomfortable. Next slide. Okay, so a game loss for unsporting conduct major. This is definitely a very negative thing, which might not just leave a negative impression for that one tournament. That could leave a negative impression with that person for the rest of their life, and we might never see them again at a Magic tournament. And we have a duty to protect these people from people with these kinds of backward opinions. When we look at the survey, almost 10 people thought there was no penalty. We had about 30 people thinking it was just a warning, and of course the vast majority thinking it was a game loss, and 1 or 2 people thinking it was a disqualification. But it wasn't aggressive behavior at that person or at that person's property, so it doesn't fit our measuring stick for aggression and a disqualification. Next slide. Okay, again, we'll give you a minute to watch. We'll wait for the feed to catch up, and then we'll throw it up into some comments before the vote.
Attack. Reveal top credit library.
Right, I'll take the vote.
Okay. Pass the turn.
Ooh, didn't see that one coming.
Man! You would draw that fracking card. Only you would draw that fracking card.
What? Why do you get so upset?
Okay, guys. Anyone want to venture opinion about this situation before we go to the vote? Yes, sir.
That was aggressive behavior, not directed at a particular person, and unsportsmanlike conduct major.
So you feel it's unsporting conduct major?
Not directed at anyone, but it's definitely inappropriate.
Okay. So I vote for a game loss. Anyone else? Max?
It's definitely disruptive, especially to people that could be around them, but it wasn't anything that was directly targeted as opponents, nor was it construed as aggressive. So I think a warning is the appropriate penalty there.
So some people think it's a warning. Any other opinions before we put it to the vote? Okay, let's put it to a vote. No problem? Just a warning? 1, 2, 3. About 25-ish people. Major and a game loss. about 5 or 6 people. Disqualification? No? Okay. So let's see what the survey said. I feel this is most appropriate being unsporting conduct minor. He was starting to lose his temper a bit, but it was mostly directed inwards. It wasn't aggressive behavior that was going to his opponent, trying to make them uncomfortable. He just had a little bit of a tantrum. So I think it's appropriate that we give just a warning. But of course, if he behaves like this again later on in the tournament, if you've already had an unsporting conduct warning, you get a second one, we would upgrade it to a game loss. So we definitely want him to fix his behavior and smarten himself up immediately. Okay? So, interestingly, more than half the survey, over 100 judges, thought there wasn't a problem with this at all. 40% thought it was a warning. Very few, thankfully, thought it was a game loss. We haven't quite crossed that territory yet. And 2 people thought it was a disqualification.
And Timothy Champlin, your draft is waiting on you. Please make your way to the side event stage.
So,
Mark Posgay, Timothy Champlin.
So we definitely don't want to see people getting aggressive, because people can quickly get intimidated, but I don't think he's crossed the line there. It was just a quick internal thing, and that can happen to anyone. But we still want him to change his ways and realize this is not appropriate. Next slide. Okay, so this one is out of order. It's number 3. The last one was number 4, wasn't it? So this is deliberately out of order, because this is potentially a little bit more of an escalation. Okay? So keep in mind, with the last one we saw, it was just a warning. So do we feel that we've gone a bit further and crossed the line this time?
So he'll die, he'll die, he'll die.
Right.
So you're at 2 life and I'm at 2 life. Okay. Go.
All right. Sweet. Lightning bolt you?
Sure. Damn it! I'm never playing this deck again. I can never win this damn deck. Hate this.
Okay. Any opinions on this one? Are we still happy with unsporting conduct minor? Yes.
It's excessive. It's kind of like the other one. It's excessive profane language, but it's not directed towards his opponent.
So we've thrown in a bit of vulgar language as well. But again, it's mostly directed inwards. Anyone disagree with that? Because I'm leaning towards still just minor. Anyone disagree? Yes?
Like the last one, I still think this one was major. Although I want to point out, I assume frack was supposed to be vulgar language from the last video. I assume that was supposed to be both. I guess that's different now. I still think they're both major.
Say that last part.
I still think they're both major.
Okay. So let's hit the next slide. So we still haven't turned over or breached the unsporting conduct major part yet. Remember, some vulgar language is also part of unsporting conduct minor. So it's still pretty much internal, as another person pointed out. So a little bit stronger, but still really just worth a warning. And the majority of people agreed with that, with 13% going down to just no penalty. That must be a rough place where they play if that doesn't deserve a penalty. And about 60 people in the survey out of 200 thinking it was a game loss, and 2 people thinking it was a disqualification. But we haven't seen anything which is directed at the opponent, which is aggressive.
5. Your seats for deck construction have been posted. Please find your seats so we can get started.
My turn, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll tap 3 mana, and I'll play a Slagstone, 3 damage to each creature.
You're fracking gay.
Okay, it might have been a little bit quiet, but he's basically said at the end, when I made the play and won the game, he said that I was gay. Any thoughts on that? Yes, sir.
Personally, once again, sealed 5. The pairings have been, or the seatings have been posted on Garrett to the right of the stage.
It fits the definition of USC major for a game.
If you have a result slip you'd like to turn in the box, looks like this, and it lives right here.
And I'm not suggesting going against the IPG, but personally, I feel that is hate speech that goes beyond. I have an issue with the policy for that kind of thing. I think it should be a DQ, but it's USC major by definition.
Yes, sir.
I feel that is a pretty well textbook definition of unsporting major. That was very much hate speech directed directly at an opponent, and should quickly result in a game loss in his following match. That was the end of that match.
So we feel that it's a form of hate speech, as he's singling out a particular class of people in the community and talking about them in a negative way. Does anybody have an opinion that wants to disagree with that and think that this isn't serious? Should only perhaps get a warning? Good. Next slide. This is most definitely hate speech. And this guy probably has a big problem. Warning, about 50 people thought it was just a warning. But as the person said earlier, that is pretty much textbook stuff. Now it's okay to have a different opinion from what the IPG says, but we need to...
Number 8. Please make your way up to Garrett. Over there.
It's okay.
So we can get started.
It's okay to have a different opinion and talk privately with people about where the line is, but that's the guidelines we have, and we should be upholding these guidelines. It's not about just personal opinion. It's about what the guidelines are telling us and upholding everyone to that standard so that we can get consistency across all Magic tournaments.
Please make your way up to me.
Number 6, go.
You forgot the Goblin Guide trigger. You need to reveal the top card of your library, sorry.
It's past that. Can't come back.
Well, sure you can. Just go ahead. Reveal the top
card. No. Judge!
Okay, gentlemen, how can I help? What happened?
He's trying to...
You go first, go on.
Okay, he's trying to activate his Goblin Guide trigger after the combat phase is already over. He forgot to activate it and now he's trying to do it.
Okay, so we have a miss trigger. Okay. And That trigger should have gone onto the stack.
Come on, he's been doing this all day.
Okay.
Could you just give him a game loss? This is getting ridiculous.
Okay. Let's stop for a moment and talk about...
Just give him the game loss.
Let's stop for a moment and we're going to talk about something else now.
There was a missed trigger situation. A judge was called in, a handsome guy, I know him very well. And the opponent is complaining that it's too late for the trigger and he wants to see the person get a penalty because of his missed trigger. Because things have changed a bit now, but he's trying to insist on a penalty. What do we feel about that? Has he not done anything bad at all? Yes, sir.
I feel like even though he's searching...
Robert Jenkins, Michael St. John, this is your last call.
His opponent is searching for a penalty, and he's not showing sporting conduct, but I don't believe he's doing it in a way that's unsporting and requires any penalty at all.
Any other thoughts? Yes, sir, in the red and black.
He's both demanding a penalty, and he's also kind of indirectly taunting his opponent for his poor play, both of which fall under unsporting conduct minor. I think it should be awarded.
Okay, so we have some opinion that perhaps there isn't anything too serious going on. He's not being very nice, but he's not really crossed the line. Well, some people think he has. Any other thoughts?
I know I personally have been saying this for everything, but I think badgering a judge to give your opponent a game loss is just unacceptable, and I would want to go major on this one. It's just unacceptable behavior.
You would actually go all the way up to major in a game loss? Yes.
I kind of like to touch about what he said there, because there is a potential to construe this as major, because you had told him, okay, let's resolve this, and he insists on, no, let's do something else. So you could potentially construe this as doing something that the judge already told you to stop doing something, but it's probably not.
Okay, so there's also the thought that perhaps having been told what's going to happen, the player interrupts and tries to insist again, maybe we have gone into major. So I think it's very classically textbook stuff for unsporting conduct minor, with just a warning. We can't have players thinking that they can ask for their opponent to get a penalty. Perhaps that player was going to get a penalty, but if the player asked for the penalty and then I give the penalty, couldn't it look like that I just given in to the player and had been intimidated by that player? We don't want a situation to occur that looks like the judges are being influenced by the players. And we need the players to understand that they can't do something like this. It just looks awful if he did get the penalty. Maybe it was his third time of missing a trigger, which would be a game loss. Maybe that guy knows that he's going to get a game loss. But again, for people round about who maybe don't know the policy that well, just because he is going to get a game loss, asking for him to get a game loss is not cool. It could create a very bad impression and look as if we're being unfair. It's very important for judges to look as if they're treating everyone the exact same way. And we can't allow a situation to occur that makes it look as if, oh well, you know, that guy gets the penalties if he asks for them. It should be one rule for all. And it might be that you can prove later that he was supposed to get the penalty. But how are some people going to perceive it and then start writing about it on the forums? Remember, you are being watched all the time, not just by the judges, not just by the players involved in that situation. So he definitely needs to be instructed that this is not cool behavior.
Standard winner box number 3, booster draft number 9. Please make your way up to the Garrett banner on the right of the stage. Once again, standard winner box 3, draft 9.
With a lightning bolt, put you to 1, and then tap 3 for the spike shot, and just do 1 damage to you.
Oh man.
Okay?
Good game.
You forgot about your Glinhawk. You could have attacked with it last turn. You'd played a couple of artifact spells, and so it triggered. You could have just announced it was a creature and attacked with it.
I forgot all about that.
Ha! You loser! You could have won the game and you just let it slip. Are you a newbie or something? Tough luck, newbie.
Okay. If you ever see that guy, you tell him. You tell him something. Any opinions before we go to the vote? Do we have a problem at all? Maybe it's just friendly banter.
Grinder number 2. Or standard grinder 1. The pairings have been posted.
We've got a problem here.
Once again, sealed grinder 2. Standard 1. The pairings are up.
It originally started as constructive criticism, but then got way out of hand and went into the taunting your opponent territory, and we absolutely can't tolerate that. That's definitely USC.
Any other opinions, or did that sum it up? Yes.
I was definitely looking forward to the first no penalty, but that escalated quickly, and that's unsportsmanlike conduct minor, like by definition. We can't make fun of our opponent for making bad plays.
Right. Next slide. Okay, seems like we're in agreement here. If he had said just newbie, I might have just wagged a finger, but for me personally, when we start talking about and use terms like loser, we are definitely going down the road of mocking this person and leaving a very negative impression. It's just too much. There's only so much you can get away with making fun of someone, and that is way over the line. And most people thankfully agreed with that. I don't think we've crossed the line for game loss. Of course, it's 3 categories. Has the person failed to follow a direct instruction by a judge? Are they getting aggressive and getting violent? Or are they insulting that person based on their gender, based on their faith, on their sexuality, all that kind of thing? That's when we're escalating into unsporting conduct major. Next one.
He dies. So that puts you at 2 life and the 2 damage, so I'm at 2 life as well. Okay, and go.
Yes. Lightning bolt to you.
Damn it! You always top deck just when you bloody need it. You can't be playing fairly. You do that again. You top deck like that again. I'll break every finger you've got.
Any opinions about that before we look at the poll answers? Yes.
I don't think I should have to put that could be aggressive behavior.
Chris Herron. Chris Herron. Your event is waiting on you. Chris Herron.
So we've got a call for it to be aggressive behavior. Anyone disagree with that? No, I didn't think so. Next slide. Afterwards, I wanted to actually go back and flip over the table as well and rip my shirt open. Maybe that would have been a bit too much. Okay, so we've got a direct threat against the personal welfare of his opponent. This is just a complete slam dunk, and I don't think there's any disagreement about that at all. We can't have this kind of behavior. Interestingly, would we change our opinion if I was smiling and calmly said, I'm going to break your fingers if you do that again? Does that change us at all? No, because that intent, that threat to personal violence is still there, regardless of how it's delivered. So that wouldn't change it.
At the end of your turn, I'm going to say Searing Blaze, 1 damage to you and 1 damage to this creature. For 3. Alright, my go?
Yeah.
Then, Incinerate. Bam. Good game.
Okay, does anyone want to venture a thought on this one? Yes, young lady at the back.
Nothing's wrong there. If anything, the guy who played steering place, I think it was, he kind of threw it at his opponent, like when he was for the win. So did his opponent do anything wrong? The guy who just got him left.
Okay, so perhaps we don't have a penalty here. Does anyone disagree? Good. Was that a hand, Stephen Zwanger? I'm just kidding. Okay, next slide. Yeah. As we've said earlier at the start, there's a wide area between behaviour that's not really nice and behaviour which is actually unsporting. There's no obligation for him to shake the hand of his opponent. Okay? So, no penalty, nothing to see here. Next one.
My turn?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you just go back home to Scotland?
Any opinion? Oh, I've got plenty of opinions about that one. Any opinion? Yes, sir.
I don't remember if nationality is on the big list of things you can't make fun of people for, but it should be if it isn't, so that's me.
Any other opinions before we reveal answers? Okay, it actually is on the list. Nationality is one of the things that we do want to see because you're still singling out a particular population of the community and perhaps just a very small population of the community and making them feel unwelcome. Magic is all about having fun and letting people come back and having people wanting to come back and play the game. We might never see that guy again when something like that happens, and that makes me sad. So, no penalty. 26 people thought there was no penalty. About the same number thought it was just a warning, but we're definitely singling out a particular group of the community and making them feel unwelcome. And we do not want to see that happen. Next slide. Now this one, put your fingers in your ears.
Standard Winnabox 4. Standard Winnabox 4. Please make your way to Garrick on the right of the stage. Once again, Standard Winnabox 4.
The initial intro has some static, but once it gets to the picture of the players, it's fine, so apologies for that part.
Ready, sir?
Yeah.
My turn?
Yes. Good.
Out of Musa. We'll tap 3 mana and I'll play the Slag Storm and do 3 damage to each creature.
That's pretty gay.
Okay, a little bit quiet, but once he plays a Slag Storm, his opponent on the left says, that's a pretty gay play. Any thoughts on this and where we should, remember we've already seen one accusing the opponent of being gay, which was unsporting conduct major. Yes?
Still unsporting conduct major, because we're using the term gay as a derogatory term for things we don't mean. Like, it's still just as bad as if we were calling it something. Probably worse, I don't know.
So we feel perhaps that it's still unsporting conduct major and worthy of a game loss. Any other thoughts, or are we all glad with that? Yes?
I don't think that it should be major, even though, like, he uses the word gay. He's not using it in a negative way towards the homosexual community. He's using it in a different manner. So, at most, it should be a minor.
Any other thoughts before we reveal? Okay. We're so quiet today.
Sean Noah. Once again, Sean
Okay.
Noah.
So
make your way to Garrick so that your event can be started.
we do have the player using the word gay in a negative way, but as the young lady pointed out, he's not directing it at his opponent. He's not actually accusing his opponent of being gay. He's using it in a kind of twisted slang way to say that he thinks it's an awful play or a play he's unhappy with. But we still give him a warning, because I don't want to see any particular section of the community being portrayed in a negative way. And this guy maybe does have problems that we need to talk to him about, but a warning should be enough. It wasn't directed across the table at his opponent. Next one, and our last one for this afternoon.
Go ahead and slagstorm that.
Okay, any thoughts on this one before we go to the poll?
Judge Jason?
Yes.
Just like the previous two where this exact same thing happened, still major.
Major? Anyone disagree with major? Yes, in the red.
Minor, he didn't actually throw the cards at his opponent, he threw them at his graveyard, obviously in frustration. He didn't voice any opinion about it. You know, it's just a warning.
So we're thinking perhaps minor.
This is the last call for Sean Noah. Once again, Sean Noah.
We're thinking perhaps minor because it wasn't directed at his opponent. Any other thoughts before we do the reveal? Okay, do our reveal. We have a game loss. This is aggressive behavior. Remember, if it was directed at the opponent, then this would be a disqualification. And he's throwing the cards across the room, and leaves a very negative impression.
You signed up for Standard Grinder number 3. Standard Grinder 3.
And his
appearance for the first round have been posted.
And is still much more serious.
Elspeth, to the left of the stage.
And just a minor.
Please find your seats so that we can get started.
Okay, so let's see. We have got no, wow, about a dozen people thought there was no penalty. About 50 people with a warning. Thankfully, vast majority a game loss. And 1 or 2 people even thought a DQ. But again, it wasn't aggressive behavior that was directed at the opponent. Okay, next slide. So, who were the voters in this panel? About a third of them were level zeros. And this is 200 people who took this last year, about a year ago. About 40% for level 1, 20% level 2, only a very small number of level 3s. We had 2 level 4s and none of the level 5s. They're just very busy people anyway. Next slide. Where they came from, vast majority from North America, perhaps because of the websites I posted it on. Strong showing from Europe, and a sprinkling from Asia and Australia as well. One thing. Next slide.
You signed up for Sealed Grinder number 6. Once again, Sealed Grinder 6. The seats for deck construction have been posted.
One thing that
Sealed Grinder number 6.
One thing that concerns me about one thing that concerns me about this is that as you look at those poll results, and even for some of the questions in the audience here, we had a wide range of difference. Not just 50-50, but maybe 30-30-30 across the board. I think we're not talking about unsporting conduct enough, and we need to become more accustomed. You could be at a Grand Prix and face one of these situations, but you could just as easily be at a Friday Night Magic and face something like this as well. Please, if you take nothing else away from this, at some point this weekend, look at the unsporting conduct categories and where the line is between minor, major and aggressive. Remember, Whether you do something or whether you don't do something can have major repercussions for you, the judge program, the shop, and wizards themselves. You are always being watched.
Booster draft number 10. Please make your way to Garrick.
You're
Where a large bald man will assist you. Once again, booster draft number 10.
You are always being watched. Don't ever think that nobody's looking at what you're doing. So think about these things. Do remember with some of these people, especially if they're already somewhat fired up, you might need to talk to that person away from the table and away from spectators. It could make it less embarrassing for them. Maybe even give them a period of time to cool down. One of the best things I ever saw for handling players was by John Shannon years ago when he was head judging Grand Prix Dallas about 6 or 7 years ago. He had a player who was arguing about a ruling he'd been given by John as head judge, and as he talked to him about it, over the course of a couple of minutes, you could just see him getting more and more upset. And John eventually said to him, I want to hear what you have to say. Your feelings are important to me, but I need you to think about how you're expressing them. Please, could you take a second to grab a soda and think about not just what you want to say, but how you're going to say it. And come back and talk to me later. I really want to talk to you about this more. The guy went off, came back in 5 minutes, boom. He was nice and calm, talked it out with John. They didn't agree, but they were civil about it. And it was one of the smartest and just genius things I've ever seen from a judge. That was John Shannon years ago. And remember, as you're talking to these people, they're players in the tournament as well. Listen to them.
Field 3. Preparings are up. Christopher Laws, please report to your event.
Don't interrupt them. Listen to what they have to say and make them feel that you are there for them too. So whatever injustice they think has happened, you can say, well, you know, you obviously have some concerns, and we'll look at that and we'll see if there's any behavior that your opponent should be correcting as well. You want to make him feel that you're looking out for him too. And that will often help calm people down rather than just pointing the finger of wrath at that person. A lot of these situations...
Standard Winnabox 5 and Booster Draft 10. Please report to Garrick.
A lot of these situations will be some form of tit for tat, and be aware of that. Okay? So be there for them.
Please report to the main event stage. Justin Turner.
Probably need to ban Slagstorm. We just had 2 decks that day, that's all we used. And just to finish off, a couple of people I'd like to thank. This has been a long road in the making for this. People I've talked to and shown.
And Nathan Schiller, please report to your event.
The videos too. The very lovely Ingrid Jan, the super duper John Alderfer, super sexy Jared Silva, the magnificent Sean Cantonese, who helped me put some of the fine details in the last month, the wonderful cuddly James Mackay from Australia, lovely, lovely man, Fabian Peck, also a very nice man from Australia, and of course my family, my newborn son, who have allowed me to be here today. Thank you.
Commander 5, please report to the Commander 5.